See these coffee bags? Each one tells a unique story that entrepreneurs around the world need to listen to. While visiting the city of Chiang Mai, Thailand this last week, I visited a coffee festival and craft market where I met entrepreneurs, both Thai and foreign, who were working in the coffee industry doing incredible things that have completely flipped about what I think it means to be a good entrepreneur. Join me as I sit down in the market and just kind of let out my thoughts after meeting and experiencing revelations that I think will be very helpful to anyone interested in starting businesses, having that business be incorporated into their local community, and crafting things they're passionate about. I'm Max, I'm an entrepreneur and an investor, and I was actually in Chiang Mai to visit one of my investment's 10th year anniversary. And while there, I got a lot of coffee. So let's go to the market and let's chat. I think something I really like about all of this stuff is there's so much ideas and concepts that are being, I feel like, executed on in a much more organic way than I think we approach starting businesses in the US. So like, for example, in Chiang Mai, despite being the second largest city in Thailand after Bangkok, which is a huge metropolitan area, it has this awesome kind of like jungle meets city ambiance. And so what I mean by that is, like, when you're in the old town of Chiang Mai, you're likely to walk right by a beautiful temple that has a 300-year-old tree growing out from the side of it, and it's beautiful, but you're in downtown. And in Bangkok, almost all those beautiful trees have been destroyed over the years as it's rapidly developed and become a mega city. And so at Chiang Mai, because the scale hasn't gone to the point where there's not hundreds of 50-story buildings, and instead it has a lot more room for opportunity for young entrepreneurs and even just new entrepreneurs. Maybe they've worked a career their whole life and then they come to Chiang Mai, they retire and they start making coffee or they start making crafts. Like, in the last 2 hours, Tatiana and I have just walked not very far, maybe like half a mile through this market, and every other stall was this inspired entrepreneur doing some idea. And they're not all Thai. There was a French guy who's a engineer for wind turbines. That's his full-time job. But his part-time passion is he has learned how to do the entire process of coffee. He's mastered the growing coffee, which he grows in his own garden. He mastered processing it, and he processed it multiple ways, the washed method, natural method, and he explained to me every step of it. It was really cool. And then he talked about the roasting method, and he talked about how he can partner with people in Chiang Mai where he can focus on what he wants to focus on, and he can send it to be roasted by other people, but he still gets to sell it as his own. So I just see this very collaborative community in the crafting and coffee culture of Chiang Mai. It's very exciting. I've never seen so many beautiful coffee shop concepts and craft concepts. We just bought these little handmade magnets, and it's from Uncle J-I-E-W, so Uncle Jiu. It's a Thai dish. This is khao soi, which is my favorite dish in all of maybe Thai cooking. And it's a specialty dish up here. And what you have is kind of like a coconut chicken with some spices and some herbs and soup. It's a delicious soup. It's sweet, it's spicy, it's savory. And then you got little onions, some pickled items, and some fresh kaffir lime that you squeeze on top. And they've managed to make this into a beautiful magnet, even down to this little detail. Like, this basket you're seeing is a traditional Thai basket miniaturized. This bowl is a traditional Thai bowl miniaturized. There's a cute little lime right there. You know, that's crazy. And this is a magnet, and this person who makes all these little miniature things, I've bought things from them in the past. They make miniature Coke bottles, miniature vending machines, but they learned that their favorite thing to make the most of, and I think sells really well for them, is they make miniatures of traditional Thai snacks and foods. They have miniature mangoes, miniature mango sticky rice, and it's like a memory someone can take home, and then they added a magnet to the back of it. So it's a magnet that I can put on my fridge. And if I travel to a town in the US, the magnet I can find, and I know this because I love doing road trips in the US, and I love all the towns, but we don't have that in the US. Like, you'd really have to go out of your way to find a handmade magnet in America. Am I saying you need handmade magnets in your life? No. But I'm saying these are indicators and signals that are basically saying someone has an idea for a small thing, they've committed to it, and now you as a tourist in that area get to bring home a bit of that trip, and the person who is benefiting from your tourism is not just like magnet corporation and gas station, which is usually the truth. Normally the best magnets I get in America are at some obscure gift shop, and I'd be lucky if a local vendor made it. Usually some sort of statewide kind of company, like if you're in California, it's like a California one. You're very rare you're gonna go into a city in America, from my experience. I could be completely wrong, but New York is an exception. I don't even know if they make them in New York. It's like I bought some Christmas ornaments in New York at those Christmas markets, and they were beautiful, but I don't think they were handmade in New York, if you know what I mean. They were handmade, that's what the lady said, but I doubt they were handmade in New York. I think they were making these custom New York ornaments somewhere in a different country probably. And so this is an indicator when you see that. And then you look at all this coffee I bought, just like the stories that I was hearing from people were amazing. This one was really cool. This is called Soft Coffee. This guy named Wish, I believe is one of the master roasters or one of the founders of this company. And their mission is to save the Omkai forest and traditional coffee brewing methodologies. And so I had to buy 2 of these because number one, it's delicious. It got an 87.75 point score on a cupping, like an international world, I think cupping. If you don't know what cupping is, it sounds funny. It's not the massage, which is something you can do where they put cups on you. Hey love, what'd you get? Whoa, look at this. Come show the camera. Look at this.
It's a pretty bag in a gimbal.
Is it made in Chiang Mai?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, is that an old coin?
Yeah, they got cool. It's just a charm bag.
This is what I'm saying.
This is what he's talking about.
This is what it's about,
Okay.
you know?
That bag, I'm gonna keep that bag.
Okay, careful. Is this for Gina?
I think it's for me.
Oh my God, you were supposed to go in there and buy a gift for a friend, not for yourself.
I know. But I can't. I love it.
You're gonna sound like Santa Claus. All right, so it's this Textiles, this craft. And so that's probably one of my favorite things at Chiang Mai is just the absolute craft ability, the passion for things. Like, I was making jokes about this being Santa Claus. It sounds like Santa Claus, but the quality of this bell is amazing. Like, this feels really good. It's like a heavy metal. I haven't heard a bell ring like that since maybe I was like a kid, and you're in the US and someone has like a really well-made Santa Claus costume on, you know? And they're like, hey kids, you know, and they're walking with this. Nowadays, it feels like a lot of the clothes we wear, the products we buy, they're just made in factories and they have plastic on it. And we know plastic isn't good for us. We know that it's seeping into our skin. But most of the stuff we buy in fast fashion, all the time, we're addicted to it. We love shopping, and the only options we have in the US, West in general, are polyester and just really quickly made things by people who aren't as passionate as clearly these people are. Like, this guy's on a mission to save his forest, you know? And while Tati's shopping, I'm gonna pull out more. And everything's super affordable, you know what I mean? Like, this handmade thing, she paid $20 for this, and the materials alone, this is all real metal, this is real cloth, it feels really durable, you know what I mean? Like, this is thick, beautiful straps. They always got a zipper in it, it's organized on the inside. Oh my God, there's like nice zippers and stuff. This is a really well-made bag. Okay, anyways, you can get a horrible $30 purse or bag in the US, and it'll fall apart in a few days. All right, 2 other coffees that were very interesting. Yeah, this is the French guy, French expat who's a engineer in, I guess it's a wind farm? You know, those giant powered windmill things to generate wind power. And he's an engineer out here in Thailand for about 15 years. And it's clearly super smart if you're like working in that stuff, engineering. Like, I've heard taking care of those windmills is one of the most dangerous, physically and mentally difficult jobs on earth. I remember hearing in the US, they get paid a lot of money to do it because they have to climb up hundreds of feet into these giant turbines. And sometimes they break, and when they break, they can catch on fire. And so it's a very dangerous job because you're going to go fix something up in the middle of the sky and you're too high to safely like jump off if the thing's on fire, but you're not high enough to parachute. So many people die doing it because they'll be working on it. The engine catches on fire because of some air outside of their control. So it takes brave and smart people to do it. And one of those people lives out here in Chiang Mai. He has a Thai wife, speaks fluent Thai, which I really respect. I stopped trying to learn Thai, and I'm going to start learning again. I've been so focused on work and that got beyond me, so I need to do that. And he learned the whole process. And as I said earlier, he grows it, he roasts it with a partner, and then he sells it to cafes around Thailand. And I think what's really cool about it is he takes his expertise from French engineering and culinary stuff, and he puts it into growing coffee, which is like, wow. And are you ready for this? This cost me like 250 bahts, less than 10 US dollars, and this is 200 grams of freshly roasted beans. This was roasted today. He literally roasted this today. Go to a coffee shop in America and pull out the back, and usually you'll see something that says roast date, and it's very rare in the US. You're gonna find a coffee shop that has roasted beans in it that you can buy to take home and make coffee on your own. And those roast beans being less than 7 days old. Usually it's like, they'll tell you, they'll go, oh, it's good for months. It is, it's good for months, it's fine for months, but when you buy it so early, you actually get to take part in a really wonderful process of what happens with coffee. And this guy's the one who actually told me about it. So this one's called First Officer, really cool branding. And what they do, as you can see, is they even highlight and take photos. They have photos of and stories of the farmer that they worked with on this coffee. And he was telling me really interesting stuff about this guy. And he was saying, the guy's name is Pigo, and this is from Mai Swa, Chiang Rai, Thailand. It's an elevation of 1,100 meters above sea level. And the producer's name is Mr. Supan Chawwaso. And it says Pigo, which I think is his nickname. Pigo start by carefully washing coffee cherries, then place them in breathable mesh bags. First, he uses an aerobatic for 3 days, followed by a unique anaerobic process using juice from amaroon. He meticulously controls the fermentation, monitoring the pH to reach level pH 4, with timing adjusted for each batch, temperature, and humidity. So this guy has his own unique fermentation process where he double ferments it with his own unique creation in mesh bags using a specific juice from, I don't even know what amaroon is, but I tasted it and it was super unique. And this guy's got this really cool branding and everything. And he says he calls it First Officer. This is the roaster. They call themselves First Officer because just like captains on planes need a first officer to support them, they see themselves as a supportive partner in the coffee industry at Chiang Mai to help be the first officer of the coffee shops. Maybe it helps them get them better beans as their guide. You know, maybe it's the roasteries. He said he consults the roasteries to be their first officer. It's a very unique positioning. His business name and his business philosophy is a beautiful concept of like, I am a first officer to the customer. So people who go and buy at his coffee shop, because he also has a coffee shop. And then he said also first officer to the roasteries. So he also sells his beans at wholesale to other coffee shops or other roasters. And then he's first officer to these farmers who sometimes struggle with marketing or logistics and distribution, where they have a great coffee product and they're really good at focusing on what they focus on, but they just don't know how to get their coffee to the right coffee shops and stuff like that. That is something I notice time and time again in this coffee industry. Every time I come up here to Thailand, like, look, these beans is a gift from one of the more traditional farmer growers. These people, they grow it on their own farm, all naturally. It's all in the hills. There's no machines. It's all done by hand. I doubt a single electronic or motored engine is involved for most of the process until they're doing like maybe scale big stuff. But most of the time it's just someone walking on the hills of like a nearby mountain. It's a beautiful process. And the difference between these guys, and this is all handwritten in Thai, and they describe the process. This is a dry process. This one is also a dry process. But what they start getting better at marketing. You know, this guy, he picks these beautiful graphics, he packages it, he has his Instagram, his Facebook, and his WhatsApp written. And this is how a lot of these farmers sell, is they have these channels open where you can DM them. And again, this is something it's very hard to do in the US if you don't have a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of connections. In Thailand, I can message these people, and these people, and I live in southern Thailand on an island. I could message them and say, hey, can I buy 2 bags of beans? And can you ship them like tomorrow or something? And they'll go, absolutely. And then I'm like, okay, how much to ship it? And they're like, $5. And I'm like, what? And they're like, it'll get to you next day. And that's because Thailand has a great postal system too. And so it's like this entrepreneurial community in this country, like everyone is contact with each other through the internet. Like we've got OpenAI and all these big tech companies, but like they're using technology differently. They use a lot more phones, which mobile is the future. These people might not have fancy websites, but what they do have is like a WhatsApp. You can message them. They have an Instagram where they take a photo and say, hey, we have 500 bags for sale. And usually, if they're good at like their marketing and connecting with the right audience, the coffee industry is able to sell it to different coffee shops around the country. And something I've noticed is if you go to great coffee shops in America, when they're selling their like fancy imported like farmer stuff, they're not selling stuff from these guys. They're selling stuff from much bigger farms in Costa Rica and Panama and Nicaragua, Brazil sometimes. Costa Rica is a really popular one. Vietnam sometimes, but Thailand very little. And I'm looking at this and I'm going, I see this. I'm here. I'm in the city of like kind of where a lot of the coffee gets incubated and processed. And this is like a coffee festival's happening right now. And it's going to be just a matter of time before the whole world realizes and it becomes a global destination for coffee enthusiasts. If you love coffee, you love pour over, if you love knowing what you're drinking, if you love the like farm to table experience, Chiang Mai is one of the capitals of the world for what's happening right now, specifically with coffee, but some other crafts as well. So there's some tea farms popping up around here. A Raksa tea farm, it's a very nice tea farm that now sells tea to Michelin restaurants around the world. So some of the best restaurants in the world have noticed this area can yield some beautiful products. And then there's beautiful crafts, there's textiles, as we showed with Tati's purse. It's an incredible city of craft and culture and coffee. It's got, and community, it's got all the C's, it's like the community here is very friendly, very welcoming. One of our friends who just moved from Bangkok, she has a successful burger franchise in Bangkok. And she wanted to try bringing it to Chiang Mai. And they brought it to Chiang Mai, but they had to adjust their model a lot. You need live music in Chiang Mai. If you love live music, places like Nashville or something, you'd really like Chiang Mai. There's a lot of jazz clubs with young jazz musicians playing. If you like rock music, there's young rock bands playing. There's cover bands. There's everything up here. And it's all this tiny growing city that, even though it's the second biggest compared to Bangkok, it doesn't have the skyscrapers yet. It doesn't have the horrible traffic yet. It's affordable. A lot of digital nomads love to live here. The only downside that I think everyone complain about is the smoke season. One thing bad about Chiang Mai is it's got this smoke season every year for a few months. And it's about to happen. It's kind of already happening right now, but it's going to get worse. And basically the AQI goes from one of the best in the world. Chiang Mai is some of the best air quality on planet Earth. But during the smoke season, where a lot of the farmers and indigenous and company farms too, the private, the public, the farm, everything, they start doing this annual process to burn. And I can't speak too much of it. Yes, I don't like the idea of pollution everywhere, but I do know for thousands of years, indigenous farmers would burn all the time, give the soil that natural process, It's not like we're farming better in the US with our monocropping and stuff. So I don't know exactly why the smoke happens and if it's 100% good for their farming, but I know the air is bad for about 2 to 3 months. And anyone I meet who knows Chiang Mai and likes it, they'll go, yeah, I love Chiang Mai, but oh man, that smoke season. And it's like, hey, that's like 10 months a year, it's perfect. So why? It's like a much cooler city than the rest of Bangkok too, because we're more north, we're more in the mountains. Where the peak of Thailand is up here. But people overblow it. So I never understand that. It's like, why do we get like hooked by things for good or bad reasons? I know a lot of people who are starting to think about doing their kids online. They have young children and they're thinking about moving their children to online education, some in-person stuff. And a lot of them always immediately gravitate towards Ad Astra, which everyone goes, the Elon Musk one. And it's not exactly the Elon Musk one. The reason why they're saying that is, like many of his other businesses, he had really smart, talented people working with him and for him. And that's kind of what happened from my understanding of the program. One of his like ex-engineers or something started it. Elon liked it so much that he started sending his kid to it, one of his many kids. And then that became the marketing, was it's Elon Musk's school. And so that's how everyone remembers it. But it's not a full school. You just pay like, I think, a couple $100s a month, and it has a few video game programs that kids make. It's more like a camp, if you ask me. But everyone, they get hooked on that. That's what I'm trying to get at. And we also get hooked on negative things. We go, oh, I'm not gonna go there because it's polluted. But it's like, it's only polluted 2 months a year. And even then, like, wear a mask. Even then, your city's probably as bad sometimes. So I don't know. While a lot of people write off the city because of the smoky season, I think the smoke is covering up the magic that's happening up down here. And with or without smoke, the magics keep going. It's strong. It's clearly growing every year. Every time I come back to Chiang Mai, the city has adapted and grown in a new way. Nothing massive yet, but little to medium projects pop up and you're like, whoa, this is cool. Like, for example, last night I went to this place, I think it was called like Neighborhood something. And it was really cool what they did. It was in an older part of town that has a bunch of older buildings in it. And it was like as if they built a small community mall with like coffee shops, a pizza kitchen with like a wood-fired pizza oven, a cinnamon roll place, a photo booth, a really nice cocktail bar. They had a vinyl table built into the cocktail bar. So it was a beautiful piece of wood that looked really thick. And there was DJ equipment laid inside of the table, and they made really good cocktails. All right, so it was called like Neighborhood something, and they had all these little shops built into it. And I loved it. It was amazing. They bought 4 or 5 completely different old buildings that were all on like the same half block, but they weren't all on the same street, if you know what I mean. They were very smart, and they bought like some on the one end and some on the other end, and then they bought some others in the middle, and they built this like, they don't own the whole block, but they kind of do, is like, you can walk through the thing from block 1 to block 2, so it creates a really nice flow through the space. And then, this is my favorite part about it, there was old, beautiful wooden staircases that were in all the old buildings, and they were very careful to honestly control demolition, some stuff of this old building that's was never gonna get used anyways. Honestly, it's like, there's definitely gentrification happening with this, but this was one of those buildings that was gonna be lost to time. And this gave it a new purpose. Instead of destroying it and putting a mall or a skyscraper. I don't like that. And that's kind of what happened in Bangkok. And Chiang Mai's not there yet. And all the places inside of it were top notch. And it had neighborhood in the name. And I thought that was a really cute idea. I think any neighborhood on earth could hypothetically have something like this. Everyone loves to go to these weekend markets in like hip part of their town. But what no one's ever really thinking or considering is, what if your neighborhood had that? What if you didn't have to drive to the other side of town for your weekend brunch, because you have to go to the hip part, you got to go to the college part, you got to go to the new part, you got to go to this part. And it's like, let's stop this rat race where we're like, just like genderifying an entire city around us, but never improving the environment immediately around us. Never going like, how can I make my neighborhood better? And I'm seeing that here. I am seeing neighborhoods itself go, how can we make it better? And I think that's a beautiful mindset. I think in the US, we've been trained to be extremely ambitious. We've been trained to be extremely confident and shoot for the stars and basically like 10x everything. It's come with the fact that we have the billion-dollar companies, we have the billionaires, we have the deal-making president, like it makes us look at life as if it needs to be this conquest, this giant trophy we have to win. And life is not about the trophies, but we get distracted, we get shiny object syndrome, and we go, I gotta be a billionaire, I need to be a super successful, I need to own a company. And I'm telling you that never is gonna fill your soul. I tried it. I started many companies that I thought were gonna make me happy, or I started many projects, or I worked with companies that I thought were like the missing piece to my trophy case. And I've done some really cool projects that I'm really proud of. I've done things with $100+ million startups in charge of their entire marketing. I've run projects that like an entire city, is aware of, and parts of the city go to it. And in big cities, I'm talking about like one of the biggest in the world. And it's like really cool projects I'm really proud of. I get to work with my best friend on a game business. That's one of my companies that I co-own, and I love it. I get to do ad campaigns for games, like super lucky me. I get to build operation systems of a async remote board game company. I love that. But until I come to terms as an entrepreneur and a human that these businesses are not going to fill some hole or fill some cup or make me a billionaire, that's not the mindset I want. I don't want that. I'm not doing all this business to make a bunch of money. It's about building something bigger than you that you're proud of and you're happy to be a part of, And so if you're considering starting a business, or if you're currently running a business and you feel like every day you gotta go out there and prove to people or yourself something, just like check in with yourself more often. If you feel that way, ask your questions like, what can I do today that I would feel worthy of celebration tonight? Like a mindset that has helped me a lot is celebrating the local daily wins, because like in life, we will only ever know the present. And you can build towards huge projects. You can build towards that app you're gonna launch in 6 months. You can build towards that restaurant you're gonna open in a year. You can totally do that. But you just need to, my advice, just make sure whatever you're doing on a daily basis to get to that bigger goal makes you feel complete. Because that big project's never gonna make you feel complete. Your daily life's gonna make you feel complete. So how do you do that? I don't know. I don't have the perfect answers for things, but for me, number one, work with the right people. Like, I might be involved in a bunch of businesses, but it's not all business to me. It's like business and pleasure, because the people I work with are friends. And I know rise and grind, hustle, art of war, like Wall Street people, business is like a war to them. I don't subscribe to that. I think business is like, it's all about relationships, and it's not about getting the best deal or like getting leverage over other people, which like a lot of people talk about business that way. And even sometimes I talk about it that way. But like what makes me happy is when the business feels like we are building something greater together, I'm in Chiang Mai for that same reason. I'm a co-owner of a hostel that started in Bangkok and it recently expanded to Chiang Mai. And we're doing really good in Chiang Mai. Our occupancy rate is at above 90% since we first opened, which is wild if you think about it. 90% average occupancy rate for a hostel with hundreds of beds. So for a brand, our first location in this city, we're really happy, we're really proud. Now it's high season, so like we don't know what low season is gonna be like, but it's gonna be interesting. But the community that the team has made, the people I work with who do the actual job, like I do nothing for the company that is gonna move the needle. I'm more of a tech marketing advisor owner. Like I don't deal with the day-to-day operations. I don't deal with what makes the hostel special. I get out of their way, and I am so honored that the people I get to work with, my friends, the names Big Som and Little Som, who I'll probably highlight, they are two of the most incredible entrepreneurs I've ever met in my entire life, ever. I remember meeting them and noticing them for the first time, noticing how special these two women, these two Thai women and entrepreneurs were. It was COVID, and I was in Bangkok, and like many other places in the world, they were kind of locking you down a little bit, not literally, but like you felt like locked in, And It was not fun to go to I never liked going to grocery stores, but it was really not fun going to the grocery store when you have to walk in a really hot heat, wear a mask, not touch other things or people. Like, you gotta be really careful what you grab in the grocery store. That was not fun. And they ran a hostel, and almost overnight, all the customers were gone. Because during COVID, Thailand shut down. It had to. But Thailand lives off tourism. It's its number one industry. So the lifeline to the country shut off. And what happened? What happened when the lifeline shut off? From my experience, I saw a country come together, honestly. I am speaking in perspective of watching and going and visiting the US at the same time. Like, at the exact same moment in life when we were fighting over toilet paper and hand sanitizer at Costco and Walmarts nationwide, at that exact moment in time in Thailand, people were willingly leaving their cities, going back to their hometowns, which were like farming towns. Maybe they worked an office job for the last 10 years. They would go back to their mom or grandpa or, their family's house, and they started farming rice together. Not everyone, but a lot of people did this. And it was beautiful. Why was it beautiful? Because when the economy shuts off and there's no way to get your lifeline, like tourism was their necessity. It's not like, don't fight to invent an industry of tomorrow and hope it works out. No, they prioritized on what matters, eating and community, I remember driving through a village during COVID. Now I'm talking about Bangkok, my experience, but I drove through a village once. And I drove to the village and there was a fruit market. And I realized a lot of these local villagers and tribes people, they all grow a specific few set of fruits and vegetables. And then every, day or every Sunday, every weekend, they all bring a bunch of their fruits and they sell to each other. And this was during COVID. And it was as if COVID didn't even happen. Meanwhile, America shut down, airports are turned off. Western world is freaking out. I'm in a jungle somewhere and I am seeing a resilient, strong community of just go on like it's another day. And I was like, whoa, wow, what a different way to think. For a Western entrepreneur, a Western dude, it was straight white dude. What a perspective for a straight white man to get. And it really rocked my world. And I've had so many experiences like this in my travels for the last 10 years. 10 years? 2018. So I've been living outside of the US for not 10 years, but more than 5 years. So maybe 7 or 8 years. And just the perspectives you get in Thailand of many countries before it has had really positive impacts on me. But no country before it has taught me the most about how to re-examine my priorities in a way that is more holistic for my local community. And so I was telling you about the Psalms, Big Psalm and Little Psalm, which means orange. So big orange and little orange. Hostel shuts down their business, which was gonna fail because they literally lost all their customers overnight. They really quickly devised an agile business plan. They were very startup-y, And they devised a plan, which was they went on Alibaba and they bought a super cheap electric motorcycle grocery cart. Yes. Have you ever seen in videos? We don't really have them in the US, but you've probably either been traveling somewhere or seen them in videos. They're literally like motorcycles, but they have a full truck bed attached to it. And it was an electric one of those that they bought on a Chinese website, which I love this. And I think they bought it for $500, $1,000. It was not much. They get it shipped to them. And they added bamboo poles to it. And then the bamboo poles shot up 10 feet. And then they had a white cotton flag and it said yard grocery. And yard means family in Thai. So it basically was saying family grocery. And all the vendors for the hostel who used to provide the food and breakfast, for the guest, all of a sudden they were struggling because they were selling all their product to these hostels who couldn't buy from them anymore. And the yard wanted to support its vendors while COVID was happening. And that's just, again, this shows you the way they think as entrepreneurs. They were putting others before themselves. And in this selfless kind of idea they had, their entrepreneurial idea rose, which is they started a little mobile grocery store during COVID. They filled that thing up with a bunch of coconuts, fresh cucumbers, fresh rice, just a bunch of different products that were from local farmers in Thailand who used to sell to hostels and hotels and now couldn't. So they were not doing well. The farmers were struggling to pay their bills. And Big Psalm and Little Psalm devise a grocery store. And they're going around town, and at first they're taking orders from, I think, like text message. I think you could like message them on Facebook or something, and they would take orders. But the problem was they had very limited quantities of everything, and they were doing really well. They would drive up and down the local neighborhood around the hostel, which is just so genius, so cool. And they would like stop in front of a main condo every 30 minutes, and they would have a route that they would go on. So during COVID, you would literally be like sad and miserable in your apartment. And then you see coming down the street, you're like on the 20 something floor looking down, and you see on the street that no cars are on, a like cute little motorcycle truck. And you see like 3 people on it like playing music because they all have great vibes. They're all really cool people. And I remember it was like Gun and Big Psalm, Little Psalm, sometimes Cream, sometimes a few different people, but definitely Big and Little Psalm, the founders, they were doing it. And I remember talking to them and just like listening to their business ideas and how they're looking out for the community. And it was all so selfless and so inspired. And so I messaged them one day. I was like, do you need someone to help with the technology? Because your tech is bad. Right now you have a great idea with this mobile grocery store, but it's very hard to order. Do you know Shopify? And can I build you a Shopify store? And so I built them a Shopify store. And then people could order on the Shopify store, and then they didn't have to always rely on their routes. You could pre-order. So all of a sudden they're getting these huge pre-orders coming in where they're going to an apartment building and they can drop it off because someone paid for it already and they can leave it at the front. So then they're able to like get their business even bigger. And during COVID, they survived. They survived to manage to basically, like as a 2 entrepreneurs, renting a very expensive property in Thailand, and they built construction on top of it. They built shipping containers on top of it. It was like an old Thai house and extra land, and they built shipping containers on the land. They were managing to thrive through COVID, helping local farmers, making the neighborhood love it, because we were like, we get awesome fresh groceries, like who wouldn't want to buy fresh groceries from local grocers and farmers? And you got to do that, which was super awesome. And so I loved it and helped them with the tech. And then we ended up talking through the rest of COVID. They then started a business idea to convert all the empty spaces into co-working. And so then they converted like half of the dorm rooms into co-working offices and private offices. And I rented one for 1 year, 2 years, I think. And so I built an office. I had like a mobile command station for my business projects at their hostel. And I ran businesses from there, the Kickstarter for the board game company. I worked a bit in there for it. It was awesome. It was incredible. And we would talk about them about business. I would talk to them about everything, anything and everything. Their business philosophies, my business philosophies, all that kind of stuff. And then I became a very lucky person. I'm one of the very few people on earth that is so lucky to say this, which was this beautiful business that was already it was thriving before COVID. Before COVID, it achieved the rank of number 3 hostel in Asia from, I think, hostelworlds.com did that. Great ratings on Booking. They had over, they had over 10,000 5-star reviews across Facebook, Google, TripAdvisor. It's amazing if you think about it. They, at that moment, before COVID even happened, I think had well over 50,000 customers who loved it. It was a beloved business, community space. There's restaurants at it. Some of my favorite restaurants are there. Kute, a Japanese restaurant from an Osaka Japanese couple. And they love streetwear, and they love reggae, and they love street art, and they love traditional Japanese food. So in a cool shipping container, they're making Japanese style fast food, which is really healthy. Fast food's kind of ironic. When we think about fast food, we mean different stuff. But they make these delicious things, these egg dishes, these fish dishes. And they're just one of the many businesses there. And that's kind of how the hostel works, is it builds these community spaces that both the local neighborhood really likes. Good food, good drinks. There's a nail salon at one. There's a nail salon actually both now. And then in Chiang Mai, they're just doing the same model. They built a really cool hub for travelers to come hang out, have some beers. It's not a party hostel. It's never a party hostel. Do people like to party there? Yeah, everyone. Who doesn't like to party? But there are hostels that are all about like drink, you know? This is not that. This is like a chill, drink, chat, befriend someone. So many people have met their best friends at this hostel. There's been multiple marriages that have met each other at this hostel. One of the first super employees of the yard who's helped launch the new one, Kring was one of the first receptionists. She met her husband, who is here too at the 10-year celebration. They met each other at the yard. Last year, a Swedish girl and I think like an American guy, I might have it mixed up. They had their wedding at our hostel in Bangkok. Why? Because they met each other there. They feel the magic there. It was so beautiful, you know? They invited their extended family and they rented out the entire hostel for the wedding because that's how special the hostel is to them. And so this event is gonna be so cool because it's like 10 plus years of people visiting the Bangkok one, all are converging at the Chiang Mai one. And this is gonna be the first time many of them has seen the Chiang Mai one because it's only been open for 3 months. But the brand, it's been around for 10 years. And they're all gonna come together to share stories. I'm gonna be interviewing people. There's gonna be, I think, local media there too, which is really exciting. But who cares about that? Like what really matters is everyone's there. All your friends from the last 10 years, all the history of the hostel, the early people, the new people. I'm a layperson. Honestly, I only discovered the hostel like 5+ years into its history. And they asked me to be an investor. I'm so lucky, you know?